Ben's going to be sitting tight, just helping with any IT stuff at the background. When Frank finishes tonight, we're going to grab Stuart. You probably can't see him. He's just over there doing some marking. Stuart's on site a lot. He's got his own company. He's got a lot of knowledge about some things that we probably don't have as much, or myself. I'm not working in the industry as much as him. So if he's got any questions, he's going to jump online and say an hour or 2 hours time and just answer a few questions. Just throw them at him because he's got a lot of knowledge. Like I know I'm even asking Stuart questions about stuff. So whether it's to do with the structures, or even if you've got questions about the building codes or setting up a company or something with the on-site supervision assessments, even like quality control, just throw some questions and he can answer practically how it's worked out on site. So take it to your advantage, boys and girls. And we're going to try and do that for the rest of this cluster. So Thursday nights, we're going to get Stuart to jump on and answer some questions where maybe myself, Frank, Adrian, or Glenn can't answer as well. So take advantage of it, okay? All right, I'm only jumping on just to say assessments 1 and 2 are nearly finished or that have been handed in. There's a few resubmissions. I've got a couple I'm sorting out myself. I'm going to be start marking next week as well. I've just finished some offerings, admin stuff for TAFE for next year. So I'm going to be doing some marking as well. So watch out. No comment from anyone. Not even a laugh from the guys in here. Anyway, is everyone okay with the assessments? He's all looking pretty tired. This is a time of year, right, with the structures one where it's probably the best subject, but everyone starts getting cranky because they're all fed up and sick of us. You do. In about 3 to 4 weeks' time, you all start getting cranky and fed up with us. So please be patient. We're nearly finished. And then you can all buy yourselves or buy us a beer at the end of the night. Tonight's an excellent night. So take it on. Frank's going to do hazardous materials. So I'm going to hand over. Frank, what I'm going to do is, Frank, I'm going to turn off my audio. And I'm going to turn off our webcam so we can try and get your webcam up on the screen. But if not, don't worry about it till next time. So thanks, everyone. If you've got any issues, you want to talk to me personally, just send us a message. Okay? Thanks, boys and girls. Thanks, Graham, and thanks, Adrian. Sorry, Frank.
Thanks, Brett. Okay, so hello everyone. We'll just start the night. I just want to just do a little bit of a recap on last night's lesson. You guys had to upload a site establishment just a little site establishment checklist. Okay, there's something else I wouldn't mind that's really something that Brett put up here, which is I think is a really good idea. He's got a folder here for us. If you guys want to refresh, I just opened a couple of things for you. So there's a we've got a file set up that you can start loading any codes of practice into, any Australian standards. So everything that starts popping up, all the codes, standards that are relevant, and you think, God, there's something in it that's really handy. You can start throwing it in this folder and start building yourself a little bank, information bank. Okay. Obviously, these will always change, and you'll always be loading new ones up to make sure that they're relevant or they're up to date. Okay. So any codes of practice, any Australian standards as we're coming along, anything, any websites, stuff like that, you can just start throwing them in that folder and you can start building yourself a good little tool there. Okay. All right. So don't forget to put in your attendance. Okay. And what we'll do, we'll go and have a look. What I wouldn't mind doing straight away is having a look at a few of the submissions from last night for the site establishment for Mr. and Mrs. Smith. I did have a look today. I did get some time to have a look, and there were a few that were really good, and I wouldn't mind just showing them as an example. I hope the people that I do show as an example, I hope they don't mind. So I thought that there's one particular one here from Dylan. Hope you don't mind, Dylan, but I'm going to actually show yours because I was pretty happy with it. I thought it was pretty good. So here we've got Dylan's, and he did a really nice job. Even the way he set it out, I thought was great. So he's got in there site establishment and setup. He's made a point of trees and any vegetation, because sometimes you've got to actually protect trees and vegetation. What about boundaries and access to boundaries and so on? Protection of neighbouring land, all your documents, site access, traffic control, power lines, what security requirements, all the locations of his services, utilities, his signs, all his insurances, his OH&S, WHS, site induction stuff, make sure that paperwork's ready. And he's included a lot of, apart from the obvious, he's included the, the management side of it as well, which I thought was really, really good. So well done on that one. There was another one that I thought was really good that wasn't too bad, and that was Brandon's. I hope you don't mind, Brandon, but I'm going to have a look at yours and show everyone. So this is another one Brandon's put in. What I liked about his was he's inspecting the site well before actually going out and doing any work, or even in the, you've got to go out and look at the site even in the quoting stage. Okay, he's checked all he's checking access for cranes and so on. One thing that I didn't bring up the other night, which I should have brought up, is, and I only thought of it later because doing a few jobs in the city, I remember doing one near an airport, near our major airport, Mascot Airport, and we ended up have to work in their windows because our crane boom would come on their radar of their flight path. We were doing an actual bridge parapets. We were like, I was working for a company that was doing the parapet walls over this bridge, and we had to apply. We had to let them know when we needed the crane and when the boom would be up using it. So we only had certain time periods we could actually use the crane. Even sometimes in like the cities, getting cranes to your job, there's only certain times they can be on the road and so on. So you've got to make sure that you've got all that, that's all organized as well. Okay. So this one was another good one. Apart from the obvious, he's included some other ones, which I really thought was good. Okay. So Brandon, you did well there. We'll have a look at one more. I think Tom's wasn't too bad. I'll open this one up, show you another one. So this was good too. He did the same. Okay, he had all that in there. And like I said, you've got to be really, really careful with a lot of the management stuff. So don't, focusing on the obvious was good, but make sure you included some of the, the unforeseen stuff. Okay, so generally it was good. So I'm pretty happy with the stuff you guys handed in. Okay. All right. So getting back to our lesson tonight. So I've showed you that folder that you guys can start loading all your resources in, stuff that you're going to need, to have a look at later. All right. Or during the actual delivery of this unit. All right. Now, we've got an example here of an actual little drawing. We've got the site plan of Mr. and Mrs. Smith, okay? And we've got a little map drawn up with the boundary and so on. So you guys can refresh that and it'll open up and you can open this up, okay? So here's a little sketch. Here's a site plan of Mr. and Mrs. Smith. We've got our boundary fence, our fencing up, site fencing. So we've got the blue as access and parking. So the P is parking bays, areas. We've got water, and the water, this is important because you don't want to be carting hoses all the way around the job. So depending on how big the job is, you want to be able to gain access to water. So one tap's servicing half the job, the other is servicing the other half, okay? So B is our bins, our waste bins, or an area where we're going to place all our rubbish and so on. T is for toilet and S is for shed, and the rest of the site can be for storage, okay? So that's just a little example. If you guys drew something like that and loaded it up, took a screenshot or scanned it and added it to your document and loaded it up, that would have been brilliant as well. That would have been good. I haven't seen any of those yet, though. Okay. All right. So now we're going to get into, we've got to cover something because we're doing commercial and residential. Okay, I've just opened another one up there so you can refresh. Commercial site establishment. Now in the chat box, I'll get you guys to tell me what you think are the major differences between the commercial site establishment and the residential site establishment. So what are the sort of things on a commercial site which would be different to a residential site? Public access. So Cody, that was brilliant because it's a major concern on any commercial site. Not everybody can just walk in on those sites. You have to make sure that you can police it, okay? You don't want anybody just walking in, all right? That is one thing. Security, all right? Inductions, more hazardous waste and materials. Big cash is a good one, Jacob, okay? Site sheds, internet, phone, lunchroom. So it is. So when you're looking at your commercial buildings, it is a whole different dynamic to a residential house that you're building. Okay. So you've got a commercial job can include tilt ups. It's multi-story. You've got huge scaffolding. You've got you know, all the water services are huge, like fighting, you know, all the plumbing. You've got sprinkler systems, everything. They might have elevators that need to go in. So you've got big lift shafts. You've got jump forms, maybe slip forms, all these kinds of things. Okay. So obviously, the security around a commercial job is so important. And number two, access to the public and protection of the public. Okay. So there, you know, there are a couple of differences. You know, there are some obvious differences between your commercial sites and your residential sites. So a residential site, it's just basically the size of the job basically just depends on how much money someone can afford to build their house and what they want to put in it. Whereas commercial jobs, you're looking at all the, you know, you're looking at hospitals, everything. Okay. Now, to protect and to keep that job, a commercial job, secure, okay, and help somebody and help management actually manage the job properly, okay, they're going to need some pretty, the hoarding obviously has to be different to what you're going to have as hoarding and site fencing for a residential job. Okay. So if you can open that up, if you refresh, and it's got here, what's the difference between Class A and Class B hoardings? This will be a forum question, okay? And I would like you guys, it's actually, there's some we're on a website here which actually tells us, okay? If you click on Class A hoardings, it tells us A class hoardings provide access control for building sites and restricts access to construction sites to authorized people with appropriate safety training. All right. Now down here you can see a Class A hoarding is basically just it's a wall built out of timber, like your plywood sheets on a frame, okay? And it just goes around the perimeter of the whole building, and there's access points to get in and out, all right? You go to Class B, we go to Class B hoardings, and you can see in the picture that it's totally different, okay? Class B hoardings provide the ultimate overhead protection for pedestrians. They are built over the footpath to safeguard the public from the potential hazard of objects falling off the building site. All right. So the obvious difference between Class A and Class B hoardings is that Class A are your fences, are just basically fences, okay, to keep people out and to have certain access points in and out. And Class B hoardings, generally, they're built over footpaths, even roadways, and they protect public, okay, from any potential risk of falling objects and so on. And another thing about the Class B hoardings is that they can actually be built on. You'll see them, they'll have scaffolding on them. They'll have site amenities and site sheds on them, okay? And you can actually use them as a storage and building space as well, okay? So Class A, that's the difference between Class A and Class B. Class B, the hoardings of Class B, they're designed, they both got to have engineers, you know, design. There's been a couple of accidents. There was one in Victoria where there was a bit of they ended up sticking a sign on the wall, on a brick wall, which acted as a huge sail. They built a plywood timber frame plywood face on this existing brick wall, and they put some advertising on it for the project. Ended up acting like a big sail. Ended up getting caught by the wind. The brick pulled the brick wall over with it, and ended up killing and injuring people. Okay, so with the hoardings, that's why, they've got to be designed to be able to take weight, and they're going to be put under all these loads. And that's why most of them, there's a minimum strength that they've got to be built to, and that's 10 kilopascals, which basically is 1 ton. They got to be able to take 1 ton every square meter. So that's huge. Okay, they're huge loads they can take. So if you want to refresh again, we can look at site establishment checklist. Just click on the link. And this is actually a company. They're a huge Australian company. They're called ATCO. Okay. Now, ATCO, they're probably, they're one of the biggest project management construction companies in Australia. Okay. And if you have a look, this is for one of their jobs. Okay. It's a construction management plan for the commercial development of Prince Street Orange. Okay. You've got your introduction. It says there, information supplied to subcontractors, plan interface, project management structure, the safety, they've got their policy there, which is basically their commitment, principal contract details, the project information. Okay. So if we go straight to page 11, it's just a few things I want to point out. Okay, here it is here. So you've got the project information, okay? They've got when its duration is. So it's going from 2019 to 2020. It's got a description, okay? Proposed development for the Prince Street Commercial Development, Orange, all right? It's where the old hospital used to be, okay? Now you've got the site view. Then you've got an aerial shot showing you the actual how big the block is, the site is. And then you've got here your work hours. So Monday to Friday, they'll be working from 7 till 5. Saturday, 8 till 2. Sunday, no work. But it says, if you read the fine print, if they have to work Sundays, they'll be putting in applications and so on. You've got all your project contacts and so on. Okay. We'll go to pay. There's some more stuff that's pretty relevant, so here, temporary services. Okay. Temporary electrical services. They even they're doing estimations on how much power they're going to use. 100 amp supply in order to serve the site during the construction phase. Okay. So it's going to provide power for the offices, the sheds, lunchrooms, change rooms, generally site-wide. So temporary power where you're going to need it. Okay. Hoist, site office, so on. Okay. You've got your communications, telephone, you've got to, it's a very big commercial job, so they're important. They're going to have all their laptops. They'll need all the internet and so on. Okay. Then it goes on about their potable water. So it's got to be clean drinking water, where they're going to need it. Okay. They'll need it to these areas, okay? Change room, side office, the first aid room, lunch rooms, the shower blocks. They want 2 water bubblers. They've got a wheel wash water at the gates, okay? There's an EPA requirement, okay? So they'll need hydrant coverage, okay? Fire, in case of a fire, all right? Then they've got all their sanitary drainage, their sewerage. What are they going to do with their stormwater? Then they show their site boundaries and hoardings, okay? Just showing it with a blue line around the job where they'll be setting up their initial site setup. And then they go down and they show their signage on their gates, how they're going to control with the cover it in the shade cloth, how they're going to actually control dust and so on. Okay. Then there's an existing building. So they're going to put up a plywood fence around it so they can protect that. Okay. And it's got a picture of how they're actually that. So over here, we've got some type A class hoarding and how they're actually fixing it into position. Okay. You've got your site access. It goes through, and that, because it's such a big job, they'll have their gates numbered, gate 1, gate 2, and so on. And that is really, really handy, because on jobs that big, you're going to get a lot of materials and so on delivered, and you're going to need to tell the suppliers, whoever's delivering, or even the trades and that, what gate they're going to have to move, they'll be driving into. Okay. So here's some more. Okay, and here's the access gate. It's a closable, open or closable, lockable gate, which they can use. See, you've got your security. They're going to have 24-hour security. All right. Traffic control. They've done their traffic control little plan there. Now, general public pedestrians. Some footpath and road closures will be required during this construction of the project for the provision of safe deliveries, infrastructure work, interfacing finishers and workers of the like. So they're saying that they're going to put in a detailed plan of when and how they're going to manage it. And here we've got a traffic management plan, okay? So they've got a manual be prepared during the detailed planning phase. A full consultative approach will be undertaken. So they'll be working close with council, adjoining property owners. There must be a TAFE, RMS, bus company services provided, okay? The traffic and pedestrian management plan will ensure the following are implemented during the construction period. So you've got full operations and access to adjoining businesses, full access to service infrastructure during construction, maintain full access to the roads and maritime services infrastructure during construction, maintain bus services and so on. They don't want to cause any problems, okay, to any of the services or whatever's running around the construction site, and they want to make sure that they keep it as safe as they can, okay? There's just one more thing on this document that I thought was pretty. So procurement and mobilisation. Prior to construction works, ADCO will implement the following, and it goes there and it goes through everything that they will be putting in place before they start. And I like this because you've got your work health and safety management plan, traffic management plan. All these kind of things are things, especially if some of you end up working for a company in upper management, which your Cert 4 will allow you to do. You can apply for construction supervisors positions or project managing positions. These are the kind of things that you'll be overseeing and making sure, you know, that it's running smoothly. You've got here your site establishment, hoardings, access and security. So our detailed approach to early work, site security, hoardings, pedestrian traffic is outlined in the respective sections of this plan. Okay, so this is one thing you might save it and add it to your file. Okay, because it is, I think it is a great example. So we've got our work facilities. If you guys want to refresh, I've opened that up. What about our workplace facilities? Well, here we've got a code of practice. All right, guys. So this is another one you would save and put in your little folder there. So this code of practice, and the thing is, you really get, you know, a lot of decent and good information out of these codes. All right, they are all use the codes with the standards, with the building, with the National Building Code as well. They're our Bibles. All right, guys, because all these documents are there to help us make sure that we're doing that we're covering ourselves. Okay, now we're not, you know, if we're just doing little residential jobs, we can put measures in place, okay, that will help us if anything was to go wrong, God forbid it did, on one of your jobs. What ends up happening, WorkCover, the first thing they do, they refer to these documents. Okay, these are all legal documents that they use in, you know, if it ever goes to arbitration. All right, there's some highlighted features in this code of practice which is, you know, I think are really important. And it says here, maintaining the work environment and facilities. So facilities should be clean, safe, accessible, in good working order. Consumable items, meaning soap, toilet paper, should be replenished regularly. Equipment and furniture such as toasters, fridges, lockers, or seating should be maintained in good working order. I went back to work last year. I went back to industry for 12 months and worked with someone for 12 months. And one of the jobs we did was, it wasn't a demolition, it was a deconstruction job, renovation. And we had a toilet, an existing toilet that we used as our site toilet, and we ended up stocking it with soap, toilet paper, all that, you know, all the things you need in there. Okay, now, much like all of you, we had our own little coffee machine in our tool trailer. We had our, you know, our Breville and our toasting, you know, our sandwich toasting machines in our trailer and so on. All right. So, but the toilet and the amenities and the water and everything else was definitely something that the guy I was working for, we had soap, toilet paper, you know, something that he had to supply there. Okay. Drinking water is really, really important as well. Okay. And something that is in the actual code of practice, not only it's got to be drinking potable water, clean. Okay. Not only that, it's got to be a certain temperature as well. Okay. Temperature the drinking water should be at or below 24 degrees Celsius. Now we know sometimes, you know, what can you do? Especially if at the start of the job where you've got water running from a main and you've put it up along the fence, put the piping up along the fence to get it to where you have to get. Sometimes it's hard to keep it at that temperature, all right? What about number of toilets? Males, 1 per 20. Okay, urinals 1 per 25, females 1 per 15, all right? It even tells us. Number of hand washing basins even tells us here. So we're going to need 1 basin for every 30, okay? Mobile, temporary or remote workplaces, access to dining facilities for workers in remote areas such as loggers or mining exploration workers may be limited. At times, the only enclosed facility available to them may be their vehicle. Now, we all can relate to that, okay? And it says here, in this instance, portable food storage facilities may be required, such as a car fridge or insulated lunchbox. I was blown away last year by everyone's car fridges and how high tech they were. And my guys had solar panels on their trailers that they were using to run them and stuff. It's just unbelievable, like how far it's all come. Okay, it's really, really changed from when I was doing my apprenticeship and so on. Okay, so change rooms. If male and female workers need to change at the same time, separate male and female changing rooms should be provided. Okay, and this is interesting. We need at least half a square meter for each worker. All right, so that's how they base the size of their change rooms. Okay, shower facilities. They need to have a floor area of not less than 1.8 meters squared. So that's when things do happen, and just say something ends up happening, WorkCover comes on and they have a look and they ask you questions why you haven't done it. The days of saying, well, I just didn't know, you can't sort of use that as a defense anymore. That's why all this stuff, and that's why there's basically a code of practice or a standard on everything you want. Okay, all you need to do is type in what you're doing and what kind of a code of practice you're after, and pretty much guaranteed one will come up. Okay, all right, so there's a quiz here on site establishment. What I'll get you to do, just refresh, guys, and open that quiz up and answer that question. It's a 1-question quiz. When establishing a building site, there are certain facilities, amenities that should be put in place. Select from the following the items that you believe fit that criteria. So you can select more than one, obviously. All right. Signage detailing builders' contact details, emergency contact details. We know by law that we need to have that sign up. It's a legal requirement. Storage area for deliveries. Yes. Water, yes. Waste bins, yes. Security fencing, yes. Toilet facilities, yes. Site access for deliveries, yes. So we know that we can basically tick every one of those, okay? So remember, with the hoardings, Class A, guys, so our Class A hoardings are basically, well, what they are perimeter, secure perimeter fencing up to a height, okay, probably 2.4. And those are made out of timber, plywood, sheets with a steel or timber frame, okay. So all the main purpose is to make sure that no unauthorized personnel can get in, okay? And they also provide a benefit by reducing the impact of noise, dust, waste flying out of the job into the into the surrounding environment. Okay, and our Class B hoardings, they're really, really important for project managers and people managing the job. So with the Class A, but the Class Bs, you can actually build on them, and they're there to protect. They'll cover pedestrian access, and pedestrians can actually walk under it. They can even go over roads. Okay. And they all need engineers certificates designed by engineers. All right. So we're going to get into, we'll start our demolition, and we'll start our demolition versus deconstruction. So what I'd like you to do, just refresh. And in the chat box, I'd like you to just, if someone can, if a few of you can throw in some answers to that little question there. What do you think are the differences between demolition and deconstruction? So what's the difference? Deconstruction versus demolition. The forum's not open. Here it is. Thank you. Sorry about that, boys. Is it open now? Demolition, knock it down, deconstruct, dismantle, reuse and recycle building. Okay, Naomi, it's spot on, okay? Demolition, you're just going to shut off all the services and actually just destroy it. You're going to nuke it with machines and so on. You're not going to worry about salvaging one little bit of material, okay? And you're going to get rid of it as quick as you can, all right? You won't bother recycling anything. Probably won't bother you won't bother separating any of the waste and so on, okay? Now, with deconstruction, you're going to salvage as much as you can, basically. You're going to reuse as much material as you can, okay? You don't want anything, you want as little as possible to go to landfills, all right? And a lot of the examples about salvage, what would you salvage basically out of a house? Say you're pulling down a house or you're renovating a house. You'd be looking at doors, windows, cabinets, any lighting and plumbing fixtures, taps and lights. A lot of the framing timber you'll want to denail and keep, okay? If it's roof tiled or roof ironed, you want to keep as much as that as you can. A lot of the floor framing, if it's a timber frame floor, you're going to try and keep that as well, okay? So here we've got an example. There's a URL up there, deconstruction versus demolition, and it tells you all about it. Now, obviously, your demolition, okay, is probably less labor. It requires less labor, and your deconstruction is going to be more labor intensive. But what you lose in your actual labor hire, you're hoping to make up in using salvaged items or selling them. Okay. So yeah. So what we'll do, I'll open this link here. So we've got a YouTube deconstruction YouTube video link. I'll get you to watch this. Boys, you guys are killing me. I can hear everything you're saying. You get louder and louder and louder. Just let me know when you guys are done, okay? Excellent. So Wollongong Council have got a environmental planning construction waste policy, okay? If we have a look at that, now you can see they've got a section here on air, reducing air pollution and so on, okay? There's a section here on chemicals, all right? So there's an actual act and regulation, which means there's laws, all right? There's actual laws that cover the proper disposal of chemicals, okay? And then there's what to do with, you know, contaminated land, all right? You've got dangerous goods, household building and renovation. They've got a whole section on that. If we just have a look at it. So what they're trying to do, they're trying to encourage everyone to recycle and reuse as much of demolition waste as possible, okay? Or try and sell it, okay? So what they're trying to encourage everybody to by recycling and reusing and repurposing as much as we can from a actual house deconstruction. Obviously you're using less energy in trying to produce those materials over again, okay? All right, and there's a lot of good there's a lot of good material in this actual website. You've got your house deconstruction booklets, okay? These are all things that you can actually put in your little folder that you like, what we showed you at the beginning of the lesson, okay? And it's got some cost comparisons, all right, between demolition and deconstruction, all right, which I was having a look at it before and it surprised me, all right? So there's a lot of really good information in this, and it's a good tool to keep. Good resource. You've got, Wollongong's actually got its own recycling centre, and we, even here where we are, we've got certain parts of our landfill now that are totally committed to recycling and repurposing, all right? So the first thing they do when we go in, they ask us what we've got, and they'll tell us where to go. If it's something that they deem to be recyclable or reusable, they'll send us in the direction of these waste bins that actually go to, you know, repurposing and recycling places. So the Wollongong Recycling Centre, what you guys in the Illawarra, you've got your own. Okay, so it's basically, it'll manage all your waste removal, okay? You've got your waste management. So if we hit the cascading little tab there, and we go to construction and demolition, and we open that, it brings up everything that they provide you guys with. So it's got here skip bins, all right? It's got recycling, okay? So they'll, they produce stuff like road-based recycled soil, bedding sand, aggregates, all right? Stuff like that. They'll be able to get rid of your contaminated soil if you find any. They'll supply you with any aggregates, pebbles, sand and soil, okay? So there's actual companies that are really, investing heavily in their repurposing and recycling. Now, if you get, there's so much money that the government is throwing at companies building sustainable, build green. You know what I mean? You get onto any website now and look for sustainable builders, or type in green building contractors, building green, and they're all claiming that they're sustainable, they're building eco-friendly. And the reason why is because government is really, really investing heavily. They want private enterprise and these people to come up with solutions, to come up with different kinds of building, new building principles where they can, cut down on waste, and, they want new products designed and so on. All right. So we'll watch this. I've just opened up the YouTube video here. Okay. I'll get you guys to watch this YouTube video. Just let me know when you guys are done. Thanks. Okay. So I think I'll open up. We've got a activity. We've got a quiz here. So I'll get you to answer these questions. So there's 6 questions. Okay. So you'll need to open up your Wollongong Council EPA. Okay. The document we had open before. You'll need to open this document up and find your answers in this actual document. So I'm just going to give you 5 minutes to finish up that quiz. All right. We'll get into our hazardous waste now. We'll move on for the quiz. You guys can, whoever hasn't finished it, you can get back to it. I'll just keep moving on so we can get the lesson content done. Okay, so we're looking at hazardous waste. Okay. So with our, we've got a forum question here. What is your definition of hazardous waste in the construction industry? And give at least 6 examples. So if I can get you guys to answer that, throw some answers in the forum there for me. Okay. So 6 examples. What's your definition of hazardous waste in the construction industry? And give at least 6 examples. You might be thinking about, I wouldn't worry too much about like itemizing like individual, like when your definition, just think of the general, think of the broader picture about what environment you're working in when you're dealing with any construction work. All right. And then you can go in and give 6 examples. So the definition should really be broad, and then you can go in and give and give 6 examples. Okay, so we've got, I hope you know, Oliver, I'll have a look at yours. Yep, any material that can be harmful to a person or the environment. Very good. Motor oil, lead paint, batteries, solvents, cleaning products, pesticides. Exactly. Well done. Jay, I'll have a look at yours. Hazardous waste is anything harmful to the environment or personnel. Chemicals, acids, asbestos, fuels, dust fibers, contaminated soils. Very good. Lachlan, I'll have a look at yours. Hazardous waste includes any material that can cause harm to a person's body, health, or potential to harm the environment. Treated timber's a good one. Concrete additives, good. Bonded asbestos, friable asbestos, paint, adhesives, very good. So, hazardous waste, any substances, solids, liquids, or gases, like you guys answered in the forum, that can harm people, other living organisms, can harm property or the environment. Okay, they're all hazardous materials in the construction industry. All right, some examples like you guys had down there is your treated timber, your concrete additives, asbestos, you've got contaminated soils, you've got preservatives, you've got adhesives, paints, varnishes, solvents, even fluorescent lights, fluorescent light tubes, lead acid batteries, all that, all hazardous materials in what we're dealing with, what we come across every day. All right, so hazardous materials with lead paint. Okay, this is a big one too. Like lead in our working environment is really, really, you wouldn't, you'd be pretty surprised on how prevalent it is. Okay. Now, it's got here lead in house paints. Okay. Now, before 1970, paints containing high levels of lead were used in many Australian houses. So this is when you're renovating or doing any demolition work, you're probably coming across this product. Okay, it's been painted over, obviously, but you know, even the small amounts like dust chips containing lead during the work can be a real health risk. Okay. Now, the recommended amount of lead in domestic paint, it's gone from 50%, it used to be 50% before 1965, to 1% in 1965. In 1992, it was reduced to 0.25%, and in 1997, it was further reduced to 0.1%. All right. Now, lead is a chemical, or it's a substance, once it's in your body, it's very hard to get rid of. All right. And people that are really, you know, that are affected are like, that it can be really, really dangerous to, is people like, you know, ladies that are pregnant, kids that, you know, come across it, and so on. All right. Now, lead can be, you would be, even by touching it, kids will be, can you know, they're always, you know, putting things in their mouth and that, or they're sucking on things, and that's how they get it in their system. All right. So it's something that is out there, and we've got to be really, really aware of it. There's another quiz here. Get you to answer this. It's only 2 questions. So select 3 potential non-physical hazards you could encounter when renovating older homes. Now that one there is pretty, it's pretty self-explanatory. I don't think you'll have any problems answering that one. Select one or more. Here's another one. Answer the one. Diverting construction demolition waste from the landfill helps how? And you can pick a few answers out of this, okay? And this is pretty straightforward too. I don't think you'll have any dramas answering those, all right? So dust in the construction sites, dust in the construction industry. Now, dust in our industry is, we know now that any form of dust that we basically come across in our job is dangerous to us, okay? Because a lot of the dust we've got silicosis now, which is, it's what, if we're doing any, concrete cutting, fibro cutting, stuff like that, we know that all that engineered material, all that man-made material like imitation stone, I'm pretty sure you guys would be aware of all the people that are getting sick now. So they, apart from asbestosis, now we've got to worry about silicosis, okay? And that that imitation stone dust, all right? So now there's an actual, there's a code of practice on dust and how to manage it, okay? So here we've got, among potentially harmful dusts, silica, asbestos, sugarcane fibre, carbidum, diatomite, talc, and cotton dust, okay? So the most harmful dust in mines is that which contains silica, which we're around as well. And then it goes on to tell us the most harmful dust is that which is less than 5 microns in size. That is particles smaller than 0.005 millimeters, okay? This dust is not visible to the naked eye. It does not follow that. It does not follow that because dust cannot be seen. There is no danger. So we know that in our industry, we're around dust all the time. Another thing that worries me about what we're doing is now with all the timber framing that comes, all the timber framing that's treated, the green and the red, if you look at their paperwork, they're screaming to tell us to make sure we're wearing gloves, personal protective equipment, and everything like that because of the effects. If we breathe that, if we're breathing in that sawdust, cutting it on our drop saws and that for the wall framing, and we're around it every day and we're doing a lot of it, well, if we're not wearing the right PP or looking after ourselves down the track, that's when it'll all come up, okay? So here's another quiz that I've opened up. I'll get you to do this, okay? You'll need to open up that document that I had open before, the dust, this one here, okay, to do the quiz. And there's 4 questions, all right? Most dusts are harmless if you drink water to wash it down. I know you guys will get that one right. Now this one here might be a little tricky for you to find, all right? Let me know if you got any dramas finding that one. Okay, which standard? What is the Australian standard for the classification of hazardous areas? Okay. Question 3 is pretty good. I don't think you're going to have any dramas answering that one. And same with question 4. All right. All right, so we get into asbestos. So there's a forum here. Explain in the forum your definition of asbestos and what is the difference between friable and bonded, okay? Just put in there, I'd like to see what your answers are. What's the difference between friable and bonded, and what is asbestos? Okay. Now, guys, asbestos is something in our industry that the biggest killer in our industry is this asbestosis. Okay, it's coming like, and the problem is, like, you know, it can take up to between 20 and 50 years apparently for any of the effects to be, you know, any of the symptoms, to recognize the symptoms of asbestosis. Okay, so it's something we've really got to be aware of. All the jobs where we are here, you know, there's fibro houses everywhere that we renovate. It's used everywhere. It's on a lot of houses as roof sheeting and so on. So we've got it everywhere here. Okay, so okay, Lachlan, you got one. I've got one here, which is better than nothing. Did you put something in there, Lachlan? Okay. All right. So we've got Lachlan, friable when the particles are broken up and airborne, bonded when the particles are still in the board or the product it's in. Very good. So friable is asbestos, is the one that you can actually break up in your hand and you can turn it into a dust. Okay, it means like any raw, loose, or in its natural form. Okay, and the bonded, over 97% of the asbestos that was made in asbestos products made in Australia was non-friable, in which the asbestos fibre were bonded by cement, vinyl, resin, or other similar materials. Okay. So what is asbestos? What is asbestosis? Something that you guys need to be aware of. Now, this goes through and it tells you, you've got your summary basically telling you what asbestos is, how many types, okay, and it tells you its common characteristics. All right, they're all odorless, tasteless. Okay, you can't really determine if it's asbestos by looking at it. You really need to do a test on it. Okay, so it says that it goes in and tells you the types of asbestosis, the sicknesses, the cancers, okay? And it tells you the most common types of asbestos exposure. And it's basically people that have been working in industries where it was used. You got like asbestos was used everywhere, especially in the rail, the navy, building products, obviously. A lot of plumbers, okay, electricians, all those people, and construction workers, obviously, are all, the occupations that are showing, all signs of this exposure to asbestos. A lot of people don't realize the secondary exposure dangers, okay? It's got here, secondary asbestos exposure includes occurrences among family members. Men who work with asbestos brought fibres home on their dirty clothes each night. The wives or other family members shook out the clothing to get rid of asbestos-laden dust, and they didn't know that they were exposing themselves to the actual dust. So there's a lot of secondary, cases coming in that they were never around it, but because their husbands were working in the industry, all right, that's what we call secondary exposure, all right? About 2,000 to 3,000 annual deaths, all right? Roughly one every 3.4 hours is caused by mesothelioma, all right? It's the most common form of cancer which develops in the lining of the lungs. Although lung cancer has other contributing causes, pleural mesothelioma is almost exclusively caused by the exposure to asbestos, all right? It's something that I'm really, really, I really want you guys to be aware of. And I don't take it for granted. Like, treat it really, really seriously. Even dust, any dust at work, okay? Now, licensing. Asbestos removal licensing, okay? Asbestos removal work must be carried out by licensed asbestos removalists. Our inspectors can issue on-the-spot fines to any individual or business that appoints an unlicensed asbestos removalist, and to licensed asbestos removalists who fail to notify us of licensed asbestos removal work. So if you've got someone, or you're doing a job where you've got to remove any asbestos, okay, Safe Work have to be notified. It goes down and it tells you the type of licenses. You've got your Class A. Now, we can remove up to 10 square meters of asbestos, okay? And that's not very much. How many, a bathroom is way more than 10 square meters. Your average little bathroom, you're going through, more than 10 square meters, all right? So that's what, unlicensed, you can remove up to 10 square meters. A Class A licensed asbestos removalist, okay? So ACM is asbestos containing materials, any amount of friable asbestos, any amount of asbestos contaminated dust or debris, any amount of non-friable asbestos. Class B can remove any amount of non-friable asbestos or asbestos containing material. They can remove asbestos containing material associated with the removal of non-friable asbestos, okay? So they're the classes of license. You've got your assessors, how to get a license, and this is pretty thorough, okay? You've got to be over 18 years. You've got to have a certified safety management system in place, okay? You've got to have completed these units, remove friable asbestos, and supervise asbestos removal. Okay. Your class B, you've got to be over 18 years of age. You've got to have finished those 2 units. You've got to have at least 12 months of vet qualifications, were at least 12 months before your application. This one here, you needed it 3 years before you can get qualified. So you've got to have done this course, then worked under somebody removing asbestos, then you can go and apply for a license, okay? And this is the asbestos assessor. You've got to have completed this course. You've got to have copies of the successful completion of the qual. Okay. Provide a detailed description of your experience and training with the last 5 years, within the last 5 years from the date of the application. Okay. So it's not, you can't just go do those units, go in and apply for your license. All right. They want to see letters of reference. Okay. You've got to have your 100 points of identity, meaning, passport, birth certificate, all that proving who you are. Okay. All your insurances. Okay. Now, like I said, it's pretty, I've had a look at this and it's pretty in depth and they're very thorough. Okay. So we're looking at this will relate to you guys out there in the Illawarra. Kembla Grange site put on notice for asbestos. Okay. Apparently they were using asbestos contaminated materials. Okay. Wollongong City Council's Blue Mile Tramway project was one of 4 sites that used asbestos contaminated building materials delivered by Kembla Grange business, according to the EPA. All right. So that company was ordered to clean it all up. All right. Now, the people that are living in houses that have got asbestos fibro around them, remember the non-friable stuff, it's safe as long as you don't cut it, snap it, break it. All right. Once it's painted and sealed and it's there, it's pretty safe. All right. You only have dramas with the asbestos fibro when you go to cut it, remove it, when you're working with it. All right. So here we've got an asbestos and demolition checklist. Now this is a document that's produced by SafeWork, and it goes through and it's just a checklist. Okay. You tick whatever's needs to be ticked. And it goes through there. Is it secured? Are barricades up? Is there enough signage? Okay. Are the facilities for the workers there? Is there the first aid amenities? Is there someone trained? Is there an emergency plan? Okay. Is the designated asbestos supervisor present? All right. Does the contractor hold the right licenses and so on? Okay, you've got a whole checklist there. This is another document that you can put in your folder. All right. And there's a lot of this stuff in here that you can use. It won't only relate to your asbestos removal, it'll relate to other things. When you guys are building and making your management plan, when you're fine tuning it, and remember these documents are living documents, guys. You're going to be working on them all the time, and you're going to be making them, you're going to customize them for whatever job you're doing. All right. And you're going to customize them for your business. Okay. So they're really, really good to use to help you out. All right. Hazardous materials in the demolition of a 1920s house. This is another forum question that I'm going to get you guys to answer. And this wouldn't be far off from what you're actually probably going to get faced with, okay? So you're a contractor, you've tendered for a job to refurbish it. It's a empty, derelict 1920s brick house. It's double brick. It's got lime mortar, rendered internal walls. It's got a tin roof, metal roof. And it's in a suburban area, so it's a built-up area, okay? The work involves replacing all timber framework, so you've got to change all the bearers, joists, timber floors, ceiling joists, rafters, etc., and associated works. List 5 potential dust hazards that you might encounter and the steps that you would take to address these hazards. So just use a few sentences, explain in a few sentences a waste management plan for the demolition process. So I'm going to get you to answer that for me. Throw in a few answers. So it doesn't have to be super detailed, just a quick explanation, okay? List your 5 potential dust hazards and just a quick explanation on how you're going to manage it. Let's see, has anyone put in any answers? How are my guys going? Have you put anything up yet? All right. So any 5 potential dust hazards, pretty easy. Well, we know that the asbestos is obviously one. We've got silica. There's 2. We talked about lead. There's 3. Mm. Hey, Scott. Excellent. Thank you. What do we got here? Timber dust vacuums on saws and dust masks. Yep. Asbestos, wet saws, sprays to keep product bonded. PPE required. Building dust fans to keep airflow through building, dust masks, silica, wet saws and watering down material, lead, dust masks and vacuums. Excellent, Scott. Thank you for that. Jared. Can't open that one. Great. Get out of this. I'm going to have to just hang on a sec, guys. Ooh. Excellent. We've got heaps up here now. Thank you. So I'm just going to go down to, I'll just go to Stephen Revere. See what he's got. Timber dust, asbestos, so vacuums on saws and dust masks, wet saws and sprays, building dust fans. Yep. Very good. Lead, yep, dust masks. We'll go to, I'm going to go to Han. Just picking these randomly. I hope you don't mind. Lime dust, cement render dust, brick dust, asbestos dust, lead paint, hose and vacuum everything down first, set up a controlled area around the site, deconstruct each section where possible, wrap things as you go, wet saws, vacs, PPE, sperm suits. Excellent. All right, so thank you for that. Well done, boys. Everyone's had a go at that. What I'd like you to do now is just have a watch the video, okay? Just something, just touching back on that 1920s house, like all of you touch the asbestos, silica, lead, but don't forget the toxic gases and the chemicals that can be lying around. And remember, there used to be a lot of PCBs, like polychlorinated biphenyls, and they were used a lot in they used a lot of that in silicons and in caulking. They used a lot of it in paint. They were also used in a lot of oils and greases. All right, they used a lot of it in electrical equipment like transformers and capacitors, and they stopped people people, and they stopped manufacturers using PCBs because they were finding they were finding really high levels in fish, a lot of the mammals, like a lot of the animals that were, so it was pretty poisonous. Okay. Just watch this video here on the history of asbestos, guys. Actually, that's 10 minutes long. I'm going to get you guys to watch that in your own time. Okay, someone put in there, yeah. Peter Taylor mentioned something about mold as well in these old houses, which is another really good thing to point out. Okay. Okay, so we've got a quiz here. What is asbestos? It's only a few questions. I'm going to open that up quickly. And what I'd like you also to do, I'm going to open this up. I'm going to move along now, guys. There's some good, you can do that quiz during the night. Now, I don't know if a lot of you, this was a little town where asbestos was being mined, okay? It's called Whitnoom, and it's actually closed down. And I've heard in the media lately that they want to take they want to take the name of the town off the maps. They don't want anybody going in there because it's becoming a bit of a tourist attraction. See, they go in and there's asbestos everywhere still. It's on the road and everything. So what they want to do is take it actually off the map so people don't visit it anymore. This picture here, actually, I was really interested in, and it's actually they're the guys that used to work there at this asbestos mining town, and that's a drum filling contest of blue asbestos. So they're actually swimming in it, which is really sad. All right. Yeah. So I remember seeing it in the media recently that they're going to actually take Whitnoom off all the maps because they don't want anybody visiting it anymore. That's how bad it is. I don't know if you guys are young enough to remember Midnight Oil. They were a band. They were a band in the early 80s, 90s, and they wrote a song about the Blue Sky Mining Company, okay? And the lyrics actually all relate to the Blue Sky Mining. What I'll do, I'll get you guys you guys can look at that in your own time, but it's a classic Midnight Oil song, all right? And it's all about the Blue Sky Mine, and those lyrics really do, when you look at the lyrics, you'll see how relevant they are, okay? Now, here we've got another video, and I'll get you to watch this thing, but in your own time, guys. I'll keep moving along here. We've got our waste management. We're into waste management here. Examples. So I've got down the bottom here some waste management actual examples. All right. I'll open them up for you so you can see those. And you're going to need this, all right? So this is pretty basic. It's just showing the block, okay? Some trees. But one of your here we've got here. This will be something you need to hand in. This is something you'll be uploading, and it's a commercial site establishment, okay? So you'll need to do this and upload it, all right? So refer to the picture shown of Narooma National Parks and Wildlife Services commercial building. Take a snapshot and draw in the site establishment features that may be needed to complete this project. So that picture is just the picture that I showed you before, okay? It's just the top view of the site. Now, what I'll do is sit back now, guys. That's basically it for all the content. So you need to load that up. You can watch this video in your own time. Watch this video in your own time. I'd listen to that Midnight Oil song. It's actually a great song, okay? And what I might do now is that's it for the course content for tonight, guys. I might just get Stuart